May 6, 1943. 2:17 a.m. North Atlantic, west of Ireland. Black water heaves like breathing steel. Wind lashes the conning tower. Salt stings the eyes. Captain Lieutenant Carl Friedrich Merton stands braced against the rail of his Type VIIC U-boat, binoculars pressed to his face, searching a horizon that does not exist. No moon, no stars, only darkness and the slow, predatory roll of the Atlantic. He should be looking at a graveyard. 3 nights earlier, his wolf pack tore open a merchant convoy, tankers burning, freighters splitting, lifeboats scattered across miles of freezing water. He logged the tonnage himself. The convoy was broken, routed, finished. And yet, intelligence insists a new formation has been sighted on the same route. Impossible. Behind him, the diesel engines rumble at surface speed. The boat vibrates with restrained violence, a predator running with teeth bared. Merton lowers the binoculars. Nothing. Just waves like black hills and wind like torn canvas. Funk Meldung bestätigt, he asks quietly. Radio confirmation? Lieutenant Xerxes Weber nods, face pale in the dim red bridge light. Jawohl, Herr Kapitän. New convoy formation reported 30 nautical miles west. Same course. Same corridor. Same corridor. Merton says nothing for a long moment. The Atlantic convoy lanes were arteries of empire. Break them, and Britain suffocates. That had been the promise. That had been the plan. But ships cannot simply return. Continue search pattern, he orders at last. We intercept before dawn. The U-boat slides forward, slicing the Black Sea like a knife that believes in destiny. You can almost feel the cold on your skin. The Atlantic at night is not empty. It is waiting. Waiting for mistakes. Waiting for signals. Waiting for men who believe they control it. Inside the pressure hull, heat and oil replace wind and salt. Condensation drips from pipes. The air tastes metallic, recycled, human. Sonar operator Obermatt Kruger sits motionless, headphones clamped to his skull, listening to the ocean's hidden language. Ping. He freezes. Not the slow rhythm of merchant screws. Not the chaotic churn of a damaged convoy. Something sharper, faster, organized. He adjusts the dial, narrowing the bearing. His eyes widen. Herr Kapitän, multiple contacts. Bearing 085. Speed consistent with convoy formation. Merton descends the ladder in 3 steps. The control room is a world of red light and breath held too long. Range. Closing. But, so. Kruger hesitates. That alone is alarming. But what? They are tight. Very tight formation. As if they were never attacked. Silence spreads through the steel hull like cold water. Never attacked. Merton studies the hydrophone plot. Regular spacing. Steady speed. Escort signatures present. Discipline. Order. Confidence. A convoy reborn. How many ships? At least 40. 40. 3 nights ago they destroyed a third of that number. The sea had burned for hours. Survivors were left to the cold because the mission demanded it. Because war demanded it. And now, 40 ships move where wreckage should still float. Merton feels something unfamiliar press against his certainty. Not fear. Not yet. But a disturbance. A violation of expectation. Surface approach, he orders. We observe before attack. The engines surge. The U-boat climbs toward moonless air. 2:54 a.m. From the bridge, the first silhouette emerges like a ghost, a black block against a slightly less black horizon. Then another. Then a third. A line. A formation. Convoy HX, designation unknown to Merton, cuts through the Atlantic in disciplined columns, wakes glowing faintly with phosphorescence. There are no fires. No confusion. No signs of recent slaughter. Only motion. Only order. Mein Gott, whispers Weber. Merton does not speak. He counts. Tanker. Freighter. Liberty ship. Escort destroyers zigzagging ahead. Another escort off the starboard flank. The geometry of protection. It is as if the ocean has reset itself. He raises binoculars again. Through salt-streaked lenses, he studies the lead escort. Radar mast rotating slowly. Silent. Watching. Night once belonged to the U-boat arm. Darkness was their ally. Surface attacks under cover of shadow had become doctrine. Convoys were blind at night. Deaf. Vulnerable. That was truth. Proven truth. Yet something in the convoy's posture suggests confidence that borders on defiance. They should be scattered, Weber murmurs. After what we did. Mayton lowers the binoculars. Yes, he says quietly. They should. He signals for attack positioning. The boat angles ahead of the convoy's path, preparing the classic night surface strike. High speed, minimal profile. Torpedoes fired at close range into the heart of the merchant columns. A textbook hunt. But the Atlantic is no longer behaving like a textbook. Inside the control room, torpedo men ready tubes 1 through 4. Gyroscope angles calculated. Depth settings confirmed. The ritual of lethal precision. Kruger listens again through headphones. And then he hears it. A sharp, deliberate pulse. Not random. Not natural. A directed signal sweeping across water. He flinches. Herr Captain, new sound. Rhythmic transmission. Like searching. Merton studies him. Active sonar. Kruger shakes his head slowly. Different frequency. Shorter. Faster. Weber looks up from navigation shots. Could be aircraft radar reflection through water, but at this distance. Radar. The word hangs in the control room like a shape not yet visible but already feared. Germany possesses radar. Britain possesses radar. But night surface detection of a low-profile submarine in open sea at range, that should be limited. Manageable. Avoidable. Should be. Maintain course, Merton orders. We attack as planned. The U-boat accelerates. The convoy grows larger. Closer. Within striking distance. The night, once their shield, now feels thin. 3:12 a.m. Without warning, a beam of white light explodes across the ocean. A searchlight. Blinding. Surgical. Unmistakably precise. It locks onto the U-boat as if guided by an invisible hand. Alarm. Weber shouts. Too late. The destroyer changes course instantly. No hesitation, no search pattern, no uncertainty. It already knows where they are. The ocean, moments ago infinite and concealing, becomes a stage. How? Someone breathes. Merton does not answer. He is calculating. Timing. Escape vectors. But beneath calculation, a realization begins forming like pressure in a sealed chamber. They were not seen by chance. They were found. Depth charge racks clatter to life aboard the escort. Engines roar. The predator has become prey in a span of seconds. Crash dive. Merton orders. Valves open. The U-boat plunges beneath the surface, leaving only turbulence and a memory of light. Water closes overhead like a slammed door. Inside, men grip metal as the hull angles downward. The boat descends through darkness that no longer feels protective. Kruger rips off his headphones. They never searched. They came straight for us. Merton's jaw tightens. Straight for us. The implication is unbearable. If the enemy can see them in darkness, if night no longer hides them, if convoys can reform faster than they can be destroyed, then something fundamental has changed. Above, the first depth charges detonate. The hull shudders violently. Lights flicker. Tools crash to the deck. A second explosion follows. Closer. Then a third. Pressure. Sound. Impact. A language of annihilation. Men hold breath without realizing it. The Atlantic no longer feels like hunting ground. It feels like a trap that closes from all directions. And as Captain Lieutenant Merton grips the periscope stand to steady himself, a thought he cannot suppress takes shape with terrifying clarity. The ocean is no longer on their side. It is watching them. It is guiding the enemy. And this convoy was never meant to be destroyed. It was meant to be bait. Another explosion rocks the hull, closer than before. Mayton understands something else in that instant. This is not a single engagement. It is a new kind of war at sea. The U-boat settles at 90 meters. Silence, except for the groan of pressure against steel and the soft, relentless ticking of gauges. Men breathe shallowly, as if sound itself has mass. Captain Lieutenant Merton raises a hand. No movement. No whisper. Then the sea explodes again. A depth charge detonates above the hull, not guessing, calculating. The blast hammers through the water column, compressing the submarine like a fist around a beating heart. Dust shakes loose from seams. A wrench slides across the deck with a metallic scream. They have contact, Weber murmurs. No one argues. The escort destroyer's propellers carve circles overhead. Not searching, herding. Each pass is precise, like a hunter tightening a noose. Merton studies the depth gauge. 95 meters. 98. He considers deeper water, but the seabed here rises unpredictably. Too deep invites the bottom. Too shallow invites the charges. Between sky and earth. Between detection and destruction. A new sound cuts through the tension. Not an explosion, not propellers. A distant aircraft engine. Impossible. At this hour. In this weather. Kruger presses headphones tighter. His face drains of color. Aircraft above, maintaining position, matching escort course. Merton closes his eyes for half a second. Aircraft cannot see a surface submarine in complete darkness. Not at this distance. Not with cloud cover this thick. Unless another depth charge detonates, closer still. The lights flicker to near black before stabilizing. Sweat beads on foreheads in the humid air. Above them, something is guiding the hunters. Hours earlier, 40 miles east, a small escort carrier plows through heavy Atlantic swells. Her flight deck rises and falls like a lung struggling for air. A radar operator aboard the ship watches a circular screen glow with pale green certainty. A contact appears, faint, moving, alive. He reports immediately. No excitement, only procedure. Within minutes, a patrol aircraft launches into darkness, engine roaring against wind that wants to tear it apart. Beneath its wing, a compact device waits, a searchlight designed not to search, but to reveal. On the carrier's bridge, an officer of the Royal Navy watches the radar sweep again. Convoy lanes across the North Atlantic Ocean have become something new, a network of moving eyes. Not blind. Never blind again. Back inside U-boat U-68, Merton studies the chart table illuminated in dim red. Convoy lanes intersect here. That has not changed. What has changed is the speed of response. 3 nights ago, they struck and vanished. Now the enemy converges with frightening immediacy, ships, aircraft, light, precision. They were waiting, Weber whispers. No, Merton replies quietly. They were watching. Another detonation. The hull rings like a struck bell. A seam above a valve begins to weep a thin line of water. A machinist rushes to tighten it, hands shaking. The destroyer passes directly overhead. Engines thunder like distant artillery. Kruger suddenly stiffens. They are adjusting depth pattern. They know our level. The implication hits harder than the explosion that follows. Not guessing. Measuring. Merton's mind moves through possibilities. Radio interception, visual spotting, random luck repeated too many times, or something else. Something that sees through darkness itself. Prepare silent running, he orders. Engine slow. Systems power down. The submarine becomes a drifting shadow, a creature attempting to vanish by surrendering motion. Minutes stretch. No speech. Only heartbeat and steel. The charges stop. For a moment, hope breathes. Then a new sound descends through the water, a faint mechanical pulse, sweeping, deliberate. Not sonar. Not propellers. Something airborne, reaching downward. A cone of pressure brushes the hull like an unseen hand. Kruger's whisper trembles. They are searching us from above. Above. In darkness. A blinding concussion follows, closer than any before. The hull flexes inward, then rebounds with a groan that sounds almost human. A gauge needle snaps. A man cries out without meaning to. Merton grips the periscope stand to steady himself. Night used to belong to them. Surface at will. Attack at will. Vanish at will. That doctrine is dying in this steel chamber. 3:58 a.m. Water seeps through a gasket near the forward torpedo room. Pumps engage. The air grows thicker, hotter, heavier with fear unspoken. Weber leans close. Herr Captain, if they maintain this precision. He does not finish. Merton understands. Precision means persistence. Persistence means inevitability. He makes a decision that would have been unthinkable a year earlier. Change doctrine, he says quietly. We do not attack. We survive. Survival. Not victory. Not tonnage. Survival. Orders ripple through the boat. Course altered. Depth adjusted. Speed minimized. Above them, the destroyer's propellers recede slightly, not abandoning, but repositioning. Like a chess player anticipating the next move before it is made. The U-boat drifts deeper into darkness that no longer protects. And somewhere beyond steel and pressure, a convoy continues westward in perfect formation, unbroken, undisturbed, protected by an invisible shield that hunts back. Merton stays at the trembling compass card. If the enemy can find them at night. If convoys reform within days. If aircraft and ships converge without delay, then the Atlantic is no longer a battlefield of opportunity. It is a system, and systems do not tire. They do not hesitate. They do not forget. Another distant explosion echoes through the water, not near, but close enough to promise continuation. The hunt is not ending. It is evolving. And Merton realizes with growing certainty that the next time a U-boat surfaces in darkness, darkness will already be watching. Dawn does not break so much as bleed into the Atlantic. Inside U-68, time has dissolved into pressure and endurance. The depth gauge steadies. The destroyer's propellers fade, then return, then fade again. Never gone, never far. Captain Lieutenant Merton waits, listening to absence the way a surgeon listens to a pulse. When the hydrophone finally reports distance increasing, he allows the boat to rise slowly. 80 meters. 60. 40. Periscope depth. The scope pierces the surface with a thin ripple. Merton rotates it carefully, expecting empty gray sea. Instead, he sees order. Far on the horizon, a thin smear of smoke marks the convoy's passage. Above it, a small aircraft circles with patient geometry, maintaining position like a shepherd over a moving flock. It is not searching. It is guarding. Aircraft persists, Merton says quietly. Weber studies the observation notes. They maintain overwatch even after contact is broken. Even after. The implication is suffocating. The convoy is not simply defended, it is continuously observed. Merton lowers the periscope. They no longer hunt U-boats, he says. They deny them. Hundreds of miles away, in a cramped operations room, aboard the escort carrier USS Bogue, a young radar operator marks a moving point on a glowing screen. Around him, charts map shipping lanes like arteries feeding a living organism. Reports arrive in calm succession: convoy position, air patrol rotation, contact probability, response vector. No heroics. No improvisation. Only coordination. An officer of the United States Navy traces a line across the chart. A destroyer is already moving. Another aircraft prepares for launch. Depth charge loads are checked without urgency. War here is procedural. Efficiency has replaced uncertainty. The convoy will pass safely, not by chance, but by design. Back in U-68, tension remains coiled inside every man. They surface briefly at dusk to recharge batteries. The sea appears empty again, deceptively peaceful. But the crew now sees patterns where once they saw opportunity. A distant aircraft silhouette. A destroyer zigzag too precise to be random. A convoy course that never falters. Kruger listens through headphones. His voice is hollow. They coordinate distances, aircraft above, escort ahead, like a net tightening. A net. The word settles into the steel hull like ballast. Merton orders a shadowing maneuver at long range. Not an attack. An observation. They follow the convoy's wake through gathering darkness, maintaining distance beyond torpedo range. The Atlantic wind lashes spray across the bridge. Night returns, their old ally. Or what used to be. Hours pass. No confusion in the convoy formation. No stragglers. No panic signals. Instead, something new appears. A second aircraft arriving precisely as the first departs, maintaining uninterrupted presence overhead. Continuous coverage. The realization is clinical, undeniable. They have solved the night. Shortly after midnight, Weber stiffens at the chart table. Escort pattern shift. They anticipate approach vectors before we make them. Merton studies the convoy's geometry through binoculars. He sees no frantic searching beams, no erratic patrols. Only quiet certainty. They do not react, he murmurs. They predict. He orders the boat to withdraw temporarily, diving beneath the thermocline layer where sound bends unpredictably. The submarine settles into colder water, hoping physics itself might provide refuge. For a time, it works. Hydrophone reports fade. The convoy's screws become distant whispers. Relief begins to form, thin, fragile. Then Kruger hears it again, a distant pulse from above, sweeping the surface in disciplined arcs. Moments later, propellers reappear on the bearing, converging, not searching. The destroyer has returned directly to their position. Not luck, not chance, guided. Weber's voice is barely audible. They see us even when we vanish. Merton says nothing. He cannot deny what evidence repeats. The Atlantic is no longer darkness punctuated by danger. It is a grid of observation, a living map that updates in real time. Depth charges resume, but now their spacing is methodical, measured. Each explosion feels like punctuation in a sentence the enemy is calmly writing. The hull groans. A light bulb shatters. A man clutches a handrail to keep from falling. And through vibration and fear, something else emerges among the crew, a shift not of tactics, but of belief. They are no longer masters of the night. They are targets within it. Merton retreats to his small chart desk, gripping the edge until his knuckles whiten. Every report, every contact, every reappearing convoy forms a pattern he cannot escape. Industry rebuilding losses in days. Aircraft guiding ships in darkness. Convoys reforming with impossible speed. This is not merely defense. It is momentum. The enemy is not replacing ships. They are overwhelming the equation. He looks up as another detonation trembles through the hull. For the first time, he does not calculate survival odds. He calculates something else. Time. How long before the Atlantic no longer tolerates them at all? Above, unseen aircraft continues its silent orbit. Below, U-68 descends deeper into water that feels less like cover and more like confinement. And in that narrowing space between pressure and realization, Merton understands a truth more dangerous than depth charges. The war beneath the waves is no longer about who can strike first. It is about who can endure a system designed to erase them. The next explosion is closer than any before. The explosion lifts U-68 as if the ocean itself has kicked it upward. Metal screams. A gauge face cracks. For a moment, the lights vanish entirely, plunging the control room into suffocating blackness. Then emergency illumination returns, dim, red, fragile. No one speaks. They are still alive. But something has changed that no repair crew can fix. Captain Lieutenant Merton steadies himself against the chart table. He is no longer studying the enemy's tactics. He is studying their method. Because the attacks are not chaotic. They are coordinated, timed, sustained. A system is operating above them. 3,000 kilometers away, across an ocean, the U-boat arm once believed it dominated. A convoy assembly harbor awakens under industrial light. Cranes swing through fog. Welders ignite arcs that burn brighter than sunrise. Steel plates slam into place with mechanical finality. A merchant ship damaged days earlier slides from repaired dock to open water. Her hull still bears scorch marks, but her engines are new, her cargo holds already loaded again. Nearby, another vessel is launched, not months in construction, but weeks. Convoys that were shattered are not rebuilt slowly. They are replaced immediately. In a planning room overlooking the harbor, officers of the British Admiralty review shipping tables. Losses are recorded. Replacements assigned. Escort schedules adjusted with mathematical precision. There is no drama in the room, only continuity. The war at sea is no longer a contest of ships. It is a contest of production and coordination, and one side is accelerating. Back in U-68, seawater pools ankle-deep in a forward compartment before pumps regain control. The air is thick with diesel fumes and fear swallowed but never expelled. Weber studies intercepted signal fragments recently decoded by Befehlshaber der U-Boot Command. Reports once dismissed as exaggeration now align with brutal clarity. Escort carriers appear where none were before. Aircraft remain over convoys without interruption. Destroyers arrive too quickly to be coincidence. He looks toward Merton. Herr Captain, they are not reacting to us. They are tracking patterns, predicting approach routes. Merton nods once. They have transformed uncertainty into calculation. Another detonation ripples through the hull, not random, not exploratory, measured. He imagines the surface above them not as empty sea, but as an invisible web of detection lines, patrol arcs, convoy routes, and response corridors. An ocean mapped not by geography, but by control. Hours pass before the destroyer finally withdraws beyond hydrophone range. The boat remains submerged, motionless, conserving power. When they surface again under heavy cloud cover, the sea feels unfamiliar, like walking through a city where unseen observers watch from every window. Kruger scans the horizon. No ships, no aircraft, and yet no one believes they are alone. Merton studies the wake of the vanished convoy through binoculars. The lines are clean. No debris, no survivors, no evidence of battle, only movement continuing west. They do not slow, he says quietly. Weber answers, voice tight, because they do not need to. The implication settles deeper than any depth charge. Convoys are no longer vulnerable interruptions in shipping. They are continuous flow. Later that night, a radio transmission arrives from command. Another Wolfpack has failed to intercept. Losses reported. 2 submarines missing after contact with convoy escorts guided by aircraft. Guided. The word appears again and again. Merton reads the message twice, then folds it carefully. He does not share its contents immediately. The crew already senses the truth forming around them like pressure. They are no longer hunters exploiting weakness. They are intruders inside a machine that has learned how to remove them. Dawn approaches once more, pale light spreading across cold water. The crew gathers in silence, each man aware that something intangible has shifted since the night began. Not morale, not courage, certainty. The doctrine of the night surface attack, the belief that darkness grants invisibility, has been disproven not once, but repeatedly. Aircraft find them. Escorts converge without delay. Convoys reform faster than they can destroy them. Industry replaces loss. Intelligence predicts movement. Technology sees through shadow. A system. Merton watches the horizon where the convoy vanished. He imagines its columns continuing westward, unbroken, guided by unseen eyes and protected by relentless coordination. He understands now why the reappearing convoys felt impossible. They were never merely ships. They were the visible surface of something vast and organized beneath. The Atlantic has not changed physically, but control of it has. He turns to Weber. The war has shifted, he says quietly, and we did not notice when. A faint drone echoes in the distance. Aircraft again, somewhere beyond sight, maintaining presence even when no immediate threat exists. Presence itself has become strategy. The crew listens. No one needs confirmation. Above them, the system continues to operate. Below, U-68 drifts in water that feels less like territory and more like confinement. And as the distant engine hum grows slightly louder, Merton confronts a realization more final than any explosion. This is no longer a contest they can win by skill alone. It is a contest against momentum. And momentum is gathering. Night returns, but it no longer brings confidence. U-68 rides low on the surface, batteries charging, diesels vibrating through every rivet. The Atlantic wind cuts across the bridge with the same cold ferocity as before, yet the men feel exposed, as if darkness has thinned into glass. Captain Lieutenant Merton studies the horizon through binoculars, not searching for prey, but for threat vectors. The shift is subtle, irreversible. Behind him, Weber unfolds a signal just received from Command Headquarters at Karaman's submarine base. The paper trembles slightly in his hand. New instructions. Night surface attacks to be conducted with extreme caution. Increased aircraft threat. Escort carrier presence confirmed. Losses mounting. Doctrine changing in real time. Weber lowers the papers slowly. Herr Captain, they are advising withdrawal after contact. Withdrawal. A word once reserved for damaged boats, not operational units. Merton says nothing. The order confirms what the ocean has already taught him. The U-boat arm is adapting, because it must. Several hundred kilometers away, a convoy designated HX-237 advances through heavy seas. Its columns remain disciplined despite weather that would once have scattered them. Above, a patrol aircraft sweeps methodically across assigned arcs, guided by data relayed from an escort carrier task group. On the bridge of the destroyer USS Chatelaine, radar operators track sea clutter with patient precision. Contacts are classified, prioritized, shared instantly with nearby escorts. There is no dramatic chase, only lead protection. The convoy moves not as individual ships, but as a coordinated organism, sensing, adjusting, surviving. Back aboard U-68, the crew receives another transmission. A fellow submarine, once part of their wolf pack, has been lost after an attack attempt at night. Aircraft illumination. Immediate escort response. Depth charge saturation. No survivors reported. The control room absorbs the news in silence. Not shock, recognition. They have witnessed the same sequence. Merton studies the chart table. Convoy routes no longer represent opportunity corridors. They represent zones of escalating risk. He traces a finger along one route slowly. They are shaping our behavior, he murmurs. Weber looks up. Herr Captain. They want us cautious, distant, defensive. Merton taps the chart. They are not just protecting ships. They are denying us initiative. Denying initiative. War is not merely destruction, it is control of decisions. And the U-boats are losing that control. Later that night, U-68 attempts a distant shadowing maneuver on another convoy formation detected by hydrophone. No approach, only observation. Through periscope optics, Merton watches a familiar sight. Steady columns of merchant ships, destroyers pacing the flanks, aircraft orbiting overhead like silent sentries. No vulnerability, no gap, only continuity. He lowers the periscope slowly. They have transformed the convoy from target into environment, he says. Weber does not respond. The meaning is clear enough. The Atlantic is no longer neutral space where hunters move freely. It is structured territory dominated by presence. Inside the hull, fatigue has settled into bone. Crew members speak less. Movements are measured, economical. Not defeat, adaptation. But adaptation carries a cost. Kruger removes his headphones after another sweep. No exploitable contact, he reports. A phrase rarely heard months earlier. Merton nods once. Opportunity itself is becoming rare. Dawn breaks gray and cold across the ocean. A thin line of light spreads over water that once promised concealment. Now it reveals scale, endless surface, endless exposure. Merton stands on the bridge as spray lashes across the deck. He looks not at ships, but at the horizon itself, as if trying to locate the boundary where control ends. He cannot find it. The Atlantic has become continuous surveillance, continuous movement, continuous replacement. Ships destroyed are replaced. Routes disrupted are restored. Submarines detected are hunted. Momentum persists. For the first time, the captain allows the conclusion to fully form. The campaign is not being lost in a single battle. It is being eroded by a system that does not pause long enough to be defeated. He lowers the binoculars. "We withdraw from convoy lanes," he orders quietly. Weber hesitates only a fraction of a second before repeating the command. The decision is tactical, but its meaning is strategic. The hunters are yielding ground. As U-68 turns away, engine steady, a distant aircraft silhouette crosses the pale sky, not pursuing, not attacking, simply present. Presence alone now shapes behavior. Merton watches it until it disappears into cloud. He realizes something chilling in its simplicity. Victory in this war at sea is no longer measured by ships sunk. It is measured by who controls where the other side dares to exist. And the space where U-boats can exist safely is shrinking. Behind them, the convoy continues west, uninterrupted, unafraid, unbroken. Ahead of them lies only open ocean. But even open ocean no longer feels free, because somewhere beyond sight, the system continues watching. And soon, command will have to confront a truth even more dangerous than loss. The Atlantic is no longer contested water. It is governed water. 2 weeks later, pre-dawn gray, mid-Atlantic patrol zone. U-68 surfaces briefly between storm bands, diesel engines rumbling as batteries drink in power. The sea is rough but empty, or appears to be. Spray slaps the conning tower. Wind claws at uniforms. Men move with the quiet efficiency of those who have learned that survival is procedure. Captain Lieutenant Merton studies a fresh radio transmission decoded overnight. It is not a tactical update. It is an assessment from command. Loss ratios rising. Convoy success rates increasing. Escort carrier coverage expanding across former U-boat hunting grounds. Not temporary, systemic. He folds the message slowly, feeling its weight without needing to reread it. Weber steps beside him, eyes scanning the horizon. "Herr Captain, if aircraft coverage extends further west." Merton finishes the thought. Then there is no safe distance. The statement is calm, clinical, final. Across the Atlantic, a convoy approaches its destination port under lead protection. Radar sweeps overlap. Aircraft rotate without interruption. Escorts maintain geometry with mechanical precision. No single ship dominates the scene. Control itself dominates. In operations rooms, officers of the United States Navy and the Royal Navy exchange signals that map the ocean as a living system, contacts logged, routes adjusted, patrols reassigned in seamless continuity. War here is not a clash. It is management. Back aboard U-68, the crew gathers in the control room for a briefing rarely given at sea. Merton speaks without raising his voice. "The Atlantic is no longer governed by darkness," he says. "Aircraft, radar, and escort coordination have removed the uncertainty we depended on. No rhetoric, no reassurance, only observation." He pauses, letting the words settle into steel and bone. "Our role is changing. Survival and intelligence now outweigh attack." No one protests. They have already lived the conclusion. Kruger stays at the deck, headphones resting in his lap. "Then the ocean," he begins, unable to finish. Merton answers the unfinished sentence. "The ocean has not changed. Control of it has." Later that night, hydrophone reports distant convoy noise again. Once, that sound would have ignited calculation and pursuit. Now it triggers evaluation, distance, escort probability, aircraft coverage, escape vectors. The decision is immediate. They do not approach. U-68 alters course quietly, slipping away from the sound of ships they once hunted instinctively. A doctrine does not end with an announcement. It ends with a choice made differently than before. Storm clouds part, briefly near midnight. Stars appear, faint but visible. The Atlantic stretches in every direction, immense, indifferent, ancient. Yet something about it feels different. Not physically altered, ordered, structured by invisible lines of detection and response. Merton stands alone on the bridge, gloved hands resting on cold metal. He looks across the black water and understands the full weight of the change. Convoys that reappear within days. Aircraft that see through night. Escorts that converge without hesitation. Industry that replaces faster than destruction can keep pace. War transformed from contest into momentum. He speaks softly, not to the crew, but to the realization itself. We no longer decide where the battle happens. The wind carries the words into darkness. Below him, the submarine turns gradually eastward, leaving behind the corridor where convoys move under constant watch. No pursuit follows. No attack comes. But absence no longer means freedom. It means exclusion. Dawn arrives pale and thin. The sea is calmer now, long swells rolling under a sky that holds no immediate threat. The crew moves through routine tasks with practice calm. Pumps cycle. Valves checked. Charts updated. Life continues. War continues. But something fundamental has ended. Not with explosion, but with recognition. Merton gathers his officers for one final observation before they clear the patrol zone. The campaign was never decided by a single battle, he says. It was decided when the enemy learned to see continuously, replace immediately, and coordinate without delay. He looks from one face to another. They did not defeat us in darkness. A brief pause. They removed darkness. No one speaks. There is nothing to add. As U-68 heads east toward distant base, the Atlantic stretches behind them, vast, cold, controlled by presence rather than chance. Somewhere beyond the horizon, another convoy advances in perfect formation, escorted by ships and watched from the sky. It will reach its destination. Another will follow, then another. Flow without interruption. Momentum without pause. The submarine disappears beneath the surface one last time, slipping into water that no longer promises concealment. And in that descent lies the quiet conclusion of an era. The hunters did not simply face stronger defenses. They faced a system that turned the ocean itself into an instrument of control. The Atlantic did not grow smaller. It grew organized.